So for the next presenter, who is Ivan Uteshev. So who is there? Am I right? Ivan, yes, you are there. Wonderful. Welcome. And they are going to talk about the Russian national team in astronomy and the astrophysics training system, an overview of the astrophysics training system. So you have the floor for 20 minutes. And we can already see your screen, so it's perfect. Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's my pleasure to meet you all online. My name is Ivan, and I'm going to present the major principles of the organization of the National Olympiad in Astronomy in Russia and share experience in the preparation of the national team.
Yes, I might just be sorry a problem. I was waiting for the slide, but we cannot see the full screen. I was just waiting to check, but we see only the upper left corner. I don't know if you can you make the full screen?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's working. Thank you.
Okay. So, identification and support of talented students is an important feature of the Russian federal government's education policy. For these purposes, the state system of school Olympiads is maintained, and Olympiad is an individual intellectual competition in some field of knowledge. This system includes national Olympiads organized by the authorities, as well as other Olympiads organized by universities. Also, there are training camps to prepare and select members of the national team to participate in international Olympiads. And today there are three main questions to answer: what these activities are for, why we hold them, and how this experience can be useful to you. Let's start with All Russian Olympiad. It's an annual competition for school students held by the Federal Ministry of Education. It takes place in 4 stages: school, district, regional, and final. Any student can take part in the first stage. The best participants pass to the next stages. The tasks become more difficult from the stage to stage. And thanks to government support, the competition is free to participate. There are approximately 6 million participants in the first stage. And this is 55% of all students eligible to participate. But only several thousand participate in the final. About 200 students each year are invited to compete in the National Astronomy Final. The Olympiad pursues high goals, such as promotion of science and scientific knowledge, development of creative and intellectual abilities, granting the opportunity to dive into topics that are not included in the standard school curriculum. To support talented children with money and privilege for admission to universities. The result of this competition influenced the selection of candidates for the national team called the International Olympiad. However, there may be issues. Some schools and teachers may not be interested in the Olympiad, so they do not provide opportunities to participate, even if students would like to take part. In small towns and rural areas, educators who are responsible for the tasks and gradings at first stages are kind of underqualified. The quality of education in large cities, especially in the capital, is higher, and the awards for winners are also higher there. Therefore, talented students do relocate. Where it was bad, it gets worse. Sometimes the pursuit of results and benefits substitutes a real interest in science. Nevertheless, Despite the mentioned difficulties, the National Olympiad is seen as a powerful tool to support youth and development of education and science. There are other non-governmental Olympiads in Russia. They exist in parallel, independently of the National Olympiad. Typically, they are organized by university or a group of universities. Several tens of thousands of school children from all over the country take part in the largest Olympiads. According to federal law, participation in such Olympiads is free. All expenses are covered by the organizers. Also, volunteers are widely involved. Moscow Astronomy Olympiad is the oldest of the current major Olympiads in Russia. It was established in 1947. And the second major Olympiad is held by St. Petersburg State University. It's an international one, and students from 12 countries participate. Both Olympiads consist of two stages: qualification and final. The best participants of qualification are invited to the theoretical round and then to the practical round, which is devoted to data analysis or observations in the planetarium. In general, the advantages and issues of such Olympiads are similar to those previously indicated for the National Olympiad. The existence of alternatives is good in itself, and the organizers of independent Olympiads have ample opportunities. They can try different approaches, styles, types of tasks. So universities attract students who did not participate or did not achieve success in the National Olympiad. Playing by your own rules means less bureaucracy and more flexibility. Moving on to the topic of training camps. Training camp is a full-time event held twice a year. It lasts from 10 days to 3 weeks. All participants and educators live isolated from the outside world. The list of invited participants includes the prize winners of the National Olympiad, and the schedule provides for activities of different kinds: studies, lectures, seminars, workshops in astronomy, physics, and maths, qualification tests to highlight the candidates for the national team, research projects as an introduction to the real work of scientists, team building and soft skills training, and cultural events such as concerts, excursions, meetings with remarkable people. During the coronavirus pandemic last year, the camp was held online, but due to the lack of live communication, this way turned out to be significantly less effective. What does these camps mean for the students? They are given the opportunities to learn from the best teachers, to meet and communicate with brainy people from all over the country. So this is a great boost for their pre-professional development. Let's summarize. The training system of Russian national team consists of the National Olympiads, other university Olympiads, and the training camps. Each of these elements is good in itself and might be independent of the others, but together they make an effective frame. In fact, it doesn't take much effort to develop an interest in astronomy among school children. Even a small team of enthusiasts is quite enough to start. And many regular events started with a dozen participants, and they could sustain without government support. But of course, it's much better to have one. Here are the duties of the chief organizer of the Olympiad. Firstly, to inform students and the teachers about the Olympiad. to develop fair regulations of the event, to compose problems, solutions, and grading criteria, to host the event, and finally to approve and publish the results and to give prizes. Hosting any Olympiad includes technical works such as printing, preparation of classrooms, collecting participants' papers, and after all, grading these papers. Technical work may be performed by local volunteers. For example, a teacher might receive tasks and instructions by email, carry out a competition at the school, and then send back electronic copies of papers. And this is practically costless. An Olympiad can be even held online, but the confidence in results in such cases is lower. I believe that online rounds are good enough for qualification, but it's highly recommended to conduct the finals offline, in person. Grading can be also delegated to local volunteers, but this approach is not recommended due to the possibility of ensuring a level playing field. Scoring approaches of such a jury would be inconsistent. Therefore, one has to form a central jury to evaluate all the papers. This can be difficult with a large number of participants. So we usually ask university students, especially former participants of school competitions, to help with grading. Anyway, the organization of the Olympiad is a trial and error path, and success depends on many factors. And the regulations have to be revised from time to time as circumstances change. So one just has to start and try. Maybe make many mistakes, but anyways. This is the end of my speech, and thank you very much for your attention. I would be happy to answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for your presentation and your experience in the Olympiad. So I'm not myself an expert in Olympiad. I have never organized or participated in one, but I'm sure many people in GHOU or our friends around have organized or participated. So I don't know if I hope they have questions or comments on what you have shown. I'm a little bit wondering, in your presentation, do you recommend to have many small and local or unofficial Olympiad? And at the end, you seem to explain it's not so hard to do, even if if I would not organize one directly. But or do you advise to have one more formal and more recognized Olympiad? What is your feeling about that?
Well, I feel that having alternatives is good in itself. So local Olympiads have their own purposes. Well, to attract students, to encourage them learning astronomy, and big formal events are better for big formal issues, to give prizes, to invite students to
we can
apply
have both.
for university. Yeah, and the stakes are high. And now I have a question in text. How do you train the Olympiads to use telescopes during pandemic? During pandemic, we had an issue since we just could not assemble lectures only. Yeah. We just had telescope and the camera and showed how it works.
since the spectator, the participant cannot read the question, because can you just, so the question is, how do you train the Olympiads to use telescope during pandemic? That you answered. And then do you use lectures only, or are there still hands-on sessions during the pandemic?
Well, the training sessions, lack of communication. So we try some online events, workshops, but it's in my view is not really effective.
Yeah.
So we just wait when we can go to some observatory and try.
Okay. Well, in any case, it was certainly harder, as for all of us. And if I understand you, you made mainly lectures and online sessions, I guess. Okay. Okay. So Gustavo wants to speak?
Yeah, it's I congratulate Ivan for the presentation. I have been involved with the International Olympiads for quite some time, and at the end of this session, we will have Greg Stakowski, which is the president of the IOA, talking more about Olympiads. Actually, I'm talking because I wanted to comment on the Q&A that the question by who made the question was Theophilus, that I wanted to let him know that it was being answered live by Ivan, but then the market that I would answer live. So I'm just talking here for the Q&A to be complete. But just regarding your question, about having all those Olympiads, different Olympiads, and that they have different purposes and they test different competences, and also they have different levels of intensity. I'd say competitions like the IOA, for example, they are really very, very demanding. And in Brazil, as in the case that I have been involved for many years in the selection process, we start with 100,000 students, and then you have to select 5 of 100,000. So it's there are many steps in the selection. As in Russia, I believe it's the same, that you need really to keep having different stages and going to increase the requirements. So that's why you have these smaller regional events that will reward people differently, and while providing the opportunities that they can test their knowledge in astronomy and their other sciences as well.
Okay, thank you, Gustavo, for this precision. And indeed, you are right. And we have another keynote presentation at 10:30 about astronomical Olympiads. So it will be a perfect follow-up of what you have presented, Ivan. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Looking forward to the keynote talk.
Yeah.
There's a final comment here by Spitza. If the website's only in Russian, Ivan, or is there English or other languages available?
Well, we're working on it. So if
yeah, you can use Google Translator.
One has any requests, yeah, we'll just try to provide some English versions. Yeah.
Okay.
But I have used the Google Translator.
And we recognize the hard work of our Czech colleagues. They translate their texts from Czech into English. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt and proceed to the next speaker. Thanks again, Ivan.